Well, thank you, Emily, so much for being here on the Anchor Your Dreams podcast. You have a podcast yourself.
hmm
So, how long have you been doing your podcast for? If you are someone who has a dream but feels stuck, if you are facing obstacles that seem overwhelming, or if you just need a dose of motivation to keep pushing forward, then you are in the right place. So, buckle up, dreamers. Anchor Your Dreams is not just a podcast, it's a community of dreamers supporting dreamers, women supporting women. Subscribe, follow along, and let's navigate the seas of ambition together. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and empowered. The journey begins now.
Let's see, almost 2.5 years.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what
Yeah.
got you started in the podcast world?
That's a great question. I think it's kind of one of those things that finds you and like smacks you on the head. Before I did a podcast or before I was ready to really fully commit to that, I did an Instagram live series every week. And so I love that and just had more and more people saying, can you please put this in a podcast platform so I don't have to have my phone open to Instagram when I listen to this later? And so I've been talking about it for probably a year. And then my podcast producer reached out to me and she said, hey, I see that you keep talking about this on your stories and in your emails and in your posts. She's like, I actually do that. Can we make that happen? And she's been the reason that this continues to happen ever since. So
Oh,
yeah,
I
it
love
worked.
that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I agree that it does definitely find you. My I had a podcast with a couple of friends a few years
Mm,
ago, and it was a great experience. It's kind of where I learned a lot of what I'm doing now with my podcast. However, as you know, with technology and everything changes so fast. So
hmm
when I decided to do this podcast, I thought I was just gonna get in there and get it done and boom, 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 and it was like a bit of a rude awakening and kind of like reality hit of how much work it is when you're
Yeah.
doing it by yourself. Um,
Yes.
but I've loved every minute of it and yeah, so yeah. I love doing the podcast. I love meeting people. It's just such a another interesting way to connect with people,
hmm
which kind of brings me to our conversation today. So, your journey with where you started, one of the things that uh, is kind of a bit of a seems to be a bit of a pattern for a lot of women, and I'll say mothers, is after birth of our children.
hmm
So you had talked about your pivotal moment being about 6 months postpartum from your second child. Can you share a
hmm
little bit about what that was like for you and your journey?
So, when I look back on my story, that's for sure a moment that I can identify that like everything changed. And it was a very unceremonious kind of day, as I feel like a lot of our moments like that begin. And I was coming on the end of a summer camp season. At the time, I was a program director for a local YMCA. So I'm working a bajillion hours a week for this summer camp, which I loved, but had immediately had my daughter gone into that. I was 6 months postpartum and sitting here being like, this is it. Like, I have this beautiful 2 year old, this beautiful baby, and a job that I love. I'm doing really meaningful work. We bought the house, got married, like, we did all of the things. And I just had this moment of realization of, okay, I've checked all the boxes and I kind of feel dead inside. If not just, angry and frustrated in my body as I think a lot of us go through these postpartum experiences, especially when you have kids back to back. And so I had this moment of realization sitting on the couch with my daughter in my arms of something has got to be different than this. And I think I have to do it in a way that's different than I've ever done before. I was very much a product of 90s and 2000s toxic diet culture. If I just elliptical myself enough, I'll be skinny enough and, try this diet, do that. And I'm like, nope, that's not what I want. And now I have this beautiful baby girl and it is my responsibility. I like almost tear up every time I tell this story. It's my responsibility to teach her a different way of taking care of herself and existing in the world and a relationship with her body. And so that's really what jump started me into a health journey that was rooted in really love and understanding how to take care of myself instead of from a place of shame or self-loathing or punishment, and really rooted in the way that I wanted to feel as opposed to the way
Mm.
that I wanted to look. And that brought me into this world of personal growth and development that I didn't even know existed, right? This was like the height of Rachel Hollis and all of that. And so all of a sudden, my mind is open to like, wow, I have agency over my life to change my habits or set goals that I want to set. That's not just here's the to-do list of how to be successful in life, but I went from being the opposite of a runner to running a half marathon, and like in rapid time my brain was just exploding with possibilities of what all could be possible for me in my life. Now, I live in a town with 43 people, and five of them now live in my house. So I'm in the middle of nowhere. And so I'm also here trying to figure out who I am in terms of being a farm wife and a rural woman and finding my place in this small town that I really love, but also this new obsession with health and personal development and habits and goals. And like, I just kept feeling like, what's the intersection between the two? I kind of have this community here and I have this community here, but like
Mm-hmm.
no one is talking at the intersection, at least no one that I knew. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a like, why not me moment driving home at sunset. And that's when I started my Instagram, in the middle of the pandemic, just from a place of there's got to be more women like me who are living in small towns in the middle of nowhere who love this life, who aren't like, oh, the only way to live a big life is to move to the city, but, want to be really purposeful and intentional. And so that's really where my story began. And my gosh, it has been such a, I don't want to say roller coaster, but winding path since then, right? I don't know how far you want me to keep going, but
Yeah, well, I
okay.
mean, I no, that's great. Pretty much almost everything that you were talking about your journey and the postpartum, that's my story. I
Mhm,
too, I think my daughter, my second was like weeks old.
mhm,
And there was this event that was being posted. So I was part of an online community. After
mhm,
my first was born, I was like, same thing, like I need to do something different with my body. Like had that whole I don't want to be that I, the mom body, right? We all talk about what
mhm,
that is, and it's plastered everywhere. Now that I'm going back like 11 years ago with my first, right? It was crucial back then, especially I felt
bounce
like
back.
the bounce back.
Mhm,
So I was part of this online community, and it was all about fitness and counting macros and figuring out how much protein you should have in your, daily, and like all the things. And from this community, though, I will say that there was an amazing core group of women. And after that challenge ended, we moved the whole community to this other online community just out of sheer support for each other. Whether it was
mhm,
fitness goals or life goals, it didn't matter. We just started supporting each other. So, long story short, out of this community, there was some talk about this special weekend, like a retreat.
mhm,
And it was all about setting goals and transforming your life and what you can change and what you need to look at and all these things. And I was just sitting there, same thing. There's got to be more for me. I've checked all
mhm.
the boxes. I got the
Yeah.
house. I got married. My goal was to have two children and close together because that's what I had growing up. I had a sibling
Mhm,
that was just, a couple of years older than me, if that actually, mom. A little close. Anyways, and I wanted that for my children. I wanted them to have like more of a friendship sibling than have these big gaps and things like that. So again, checked all the boxes off. And I just remember sitting there and looking back now, I would definitely say I had more of like a postpartum depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, and I think hitting that moment was really like I don't know what to do with what I'm feeling right now, but I don't
Mhm.
also know how to carry this.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, in this community group, one of the women said, there is no, how did she put it? It was something along the lines of like, there is no baby without mom, like you got
Mhm.
to put your oxygen mask on first. And it just hit me of like, I really got to take care of myself. And if
Mhm.
this is the event that I really feel drawn to help me branch out of this space of feeling stuck, then that's what I need to do.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, she was, not very old when I left. It was for this trip, and it was one of the hardest things ever, but also one of the pivotal moments for me on the trajectory of getting to where I am today.
Yeah.
So that's also what was my realization at that time about how a lot of women and mothers really check off all the boxes. And then we
Mhm.
get to this moment where, like you had said, like it was a wave of knowing that had washed over you. And when I
Mhm.
read that, I kind of got some chills because I feel like that is what happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so going into the next sort of phase of, okay, some people don't know what to do next, but they still have this knowing. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so
Yep.
after you had that knowing for you, you were able to kind of, it sounds pinpoint that for you, it was about health and wellness
Mhm.
and more about the feeling that you were going for. If you want to share, like, I would love to hear a little bit more about how you were able to explore that and shift from reactive goal setting to more intentional living. Because I love that. I
Mhm.
also loved how that was worded because again, even with my journey, there was a lot of reactive goal setting
Yeah.
of how do I get out of this place really, really fast? Because
Mhm.
now I want to set this specific goal, but it was more of a reactive goal
Mhm.
versus really intentionally living through it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you bring that up. And I think I'm actually going to fast forward through my story because I've learned so much since that moment. That was, oh my gosh, 5.5 years ago. So I started this online platform. I ended up leaving a job that I thought was going to be my forever job, which is a whole nother conversation we could dive into. But and jumping into the unknown of entrepreneurship, thinking I was really going to help women do the same thing I had done, like habit coaching, things related to health, things like that. And where I found myself was building communities around other women who wanted to live life on purpose. And so that has looked like facilitating retreats, hosting virtual masterminds on a variety of different topics related to postpartum or business, goal setting, things like that. It's really evolved over the years. And when it comes to that idea of how do we really set aligned goals, that's where I feel like the information that I know related to this, it's not that I don't believe what I used to believe. It's just deepened so much. Over the past couple of years, my journey has brought me into therapy and helped me realize how much even that health journey, which was really good and served me really well, was still rooted in this need to prove myself or this ongoing addiction that I had to approval and achievement and accolades and doing the thing. It was just in a much healthier way than it had ever manifested before. And so I've been untangling that and starting to really slow down and become present and figure out how to create the things that I want to in my life from a place of abundance versus needing to be better. that is a journey. That is not like a quick, easy fix. That I if I could like sell the magic solution to that, like wow, I would be a bajillionaire by now. But what I have coached a lot of women through is really aligned goal setting processes. And here's what I know about the way a lot of people set goals until they kind of go down this path of growth and intentionality is it's rooted in someone else's expectations, wanting to get the end result to feel a different way, right? If I lose 20 pounds, if I make $1 million, if I start the business, if I get the promotion, if I buy the house, then my life will be better, which is a total fallacy, right? There's been
Yeah.
studies done on Olympic athletes and, people in the performing arts getting Oscars, things like that, and that they are typically the most miserable and depressed they've ever been on the other side of the achievement. It's like that gap in
Mm.
the game
Mm-hmm.
mentality. And so when I go through a goal setting process workshop in my programs, I really like to look at the 360 view of what do you want your actual day-to-day life to be like? Because we only get so many milestones, like moments in time where we like do the thing, have the achievement, and then we just move on. And so it's really important to me to help women set goals rooted in the way they want to experience an average Tuesday, you know?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and when you can align the things that you're working towards with the actual way you want to experience the world, then that's when the path of resistance like dissipates because you truly are not only working towards the thing, but actually being obsessed with the process of it. And then when it just takes the pressure away from like the goal being the thing.
Yes. Yes. Mm.
Um, and
I'm grinning ear to ear right now because that's exactly where I feel like I've landed. And it's
mhm,
taken so long to get here. But now that I'm here, I too, I like this is exactly what I want for everybody else. Like all the
yeah.
women I meet in my local community, whether it's at a retreat or somewhere else, and they're talking about some of their struggles and everything. This is exactly what I want them to feel like. I want them to feel like they are waking up in the morning. They're not
Mhm,
filled with that anxiousness about what they have to get done for the day to get to
yeah.
that place that they want to get to. I want them to wake up and feel like, huh, this is exactly what I want to experience. I want to experience getting my kids ready in the morning and not feeling like I'm buying time throughout
Mhm,
their lives either, because that's an important piece, I think, as well. And rather than being trapped by the achieve more and be more narrative, it's really putting an emphasis on being present in the moment and
mhm.
still also knowing that you're going to achieve.
Yeah, very much so. And this is why it is such a highly personalized experience to get to the point that you and I are talking about. Because there is no magic to-do list for it. It is a process of really being willing to meet the depths of yourself and understanding your motivations behind why you do the things that you do and why your goals exist in the first place, or how you've co-created the situations and circumstances that you're in that are no longer
Yes.
serving you, and being willing to take the steps outside of your comfort zone into the unknown. Like the familiar hell will always be more comfortable than the paradise that you desire unless you're willing to do really uncomfortable things.
Yes. And being an entrepreneur, I mean, the amount of risks that
Yeah.
we actually have to take versus
Mhm.
the amount that we are willing to take, that's where the gap needs to be bridged,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's the piece that this past year has really, really, that's where I kind of focused on is okay, I want to experience my life like this. This is the
Mhm.
goal that I'm after, creating this community. And the only way that's going to happen is if I actually take one more risk.
Mhm.
And it might be the biggest risk that I have taken to date,
Yeah.
really, in the end of it. I'm not scared, if that makes sense. It's like it's
Mhm.
scary, but I'm not actually scared about it. I'm excited about it.
Hmm.
And I think landing and going through all the steps and everything that you have talked about as well, and this is the place
Hmm.
that I also want other women to experience and to feel. And part of that is also surrounding ourselves in community, right?
Absolutely.
And being in a small town, as you have described, I could only imagine because I feel like I'm in a very small town, though I'm not comparative. It's quite large. But I bring it up because we create communities as well.
Hmm.
So even in larger urban areas, there are still these small communities, could I call them cliques, that exist, and they're each their own sort of echo chamber. So
Hmm.
it's also important to build the community and put ourselves out there. Again, going back to sort of doing things a little bit more, being uncomfortable. Maybe you do have to go and, in your case, possibly travel more to find some more community for you to support. Or I had an online community. So I would love to hear what it's like for you being in such a small space. And yeah, what does community look like for you?
Absolutely. I think it's such a powerful thing. And when I came into the coaching space, I really had in my mind that I had to have all of these like processes and ideas and systems and like, here's the curriculum. But what most people need is like people who genuinely see them for who they really are and love and accept them every step of the way. A board of directors to talk through all the ideas that everyone in their personal life tells them are just absolutely crazy, and people to lean onto as they're building the confidence to do the uncomfortable, scary new things. And then other voices to sound off to help bring clarity out, right? When we hear and share our lived experiences, it like literally fires things in our brains that make us go, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. Or, wow, I see myself in that. And that just unlocked a piece for me that I was totally missing, right? Like we were never meant to do life alone. If you think about every early civilization, especially women, were always together. We were never meant to raise our kids alone. We were never meant to do our daily work alone. We were never meant to like think about the number of things that we have to think about on a daily basis in our own minds. Like we are a communal people. And I think one of the most dangerous things that happen in our modern society is we've built these little concrete boxes of isolation where we stare at our screens with the guise of connection, but really it's like people are genuinely lonelier than they've ever been before, and sometimes without even realizing it. And so fostering intentional community has been the catalyst that's gotten me to where I am today. And that looks a lot of different things. I think for me, it's come with a lot of healing of not expecting that one person or one thing is going to fill everything that I needed to. Like, I have to be whole within myself. And then I have different groups of friends or different mentors or different communities that fill my cup and bucket in different ways, right? So when you and I are sitting here talking about building virtual community or online community or going across the country and fly a retreat, it doesn't mean like kick all your old friends to the can unless they're super toxic and like really dragging you down. But like
Yeah.
also, what parameters can you have within that relationship to not let that energy seep in and just be present and love them for where they're at as you also bring in more relationships into your life that match the energy for where you want to go. And so, for me, that looks like hosting in person retreats, going to in person retreats. Every level up I've experienced in my life and business has been because I have inserted myself into a new situation with people who are like minded in whatever trajectory I want to go down. And that doesn't mean like minded doesn't mean all the same. It is really important to me to surround myself with people with a lot of different ideas and opinions and values and belief systems. But when I say like minded, I mean like growth minded, open minded, on parallel paths as the one that I'm on. And, as far as online community, that can be as simple as joining a Facebook group related to a topic that you're interested in or something that you're curious about. It could be I host virtual masterminds. There's a million different types of virtual communities, but like taking yourself outside of your comfort zone and inserting yourself somewhere else. And it is, I have to say, it is, and I'm not just saying this because I have these kinds of programs, it is important that there is a level of investment behind it, I think. Like, you get what you pay for, and you can only get so much when you have very little skin in the game. But when you are putting yourself into a situation with other people who have said, this experience is as important to me as it is to you, because we've both mutually agreed that this level of investment, like that's the level of energy we're bringing to it, it is transformational. Like, the transformation begins in the transaction, right? It's an exchange of energy, and it is a mutual agreement that, like, this is the outcome we want to co-create together. That exists in so many different ways. And that's really what I've become obsessed with, is like helping gather women to find each other, to, evolve them to the next level of where they want to go, whether it's business, relationships, personal development, or anything else. It's incredibly healing.
Yes, it really is. And I have to go back to a couple things that you were talking about. So, one of the things was inserting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And also, where that point comes from as well is about community. So,
Mm-hmm.
as you mentioned, we are really communal people. Like, we are not meant to do this alone. And I'll just talk about my own experience as what I used to call myself an introvert. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that I'm not anymore, but I think I was hiding behind this label. And then I was waiting for an invitation. We'll go into human design and like, I
Yes.
don't know a lot about it, but this I'm going to try to circle back
Yes.
because that's how I was. And then what was happening, and this is what I realized last year for the most part, is I was sitting in wait and I
Mm-hmm.
was not inserting myself. And I didn't have this blame the outside source sort of attitude. I just didn't know what I needed to really do. And
Mm-hmm.
then I came across human design.
Mm-hmm.
I I just I haven't done a deep dive, but I quickly looked it up and put in what I thought was my birth time and all this stuff. And what came for me was being a projector. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the very little amounts that I read was that projectors wait to be invited.
Yep.
And I thought, you know what? That's fine if that's what I am, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm done waiting. I
Yeah.
am done waiting for an invitation. I need to invite myself.
Mm-hmm.
I need to insert myself and then see what happens from there. And I
Mm-hmm.
started doing that. And because of that, so many things have changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's been amazing. So to go back, that's another piece is we are not meant to do this alone. It is
Mm-hmm.
very easy sometimes, I think, as you had also brought up, is like we do these things in front of a screen under the guise of connecting. But what I have also realized is that we can sit in front of a screen all the live long day. There is
Mm-hmm.
still a shared energy that you do
Yes.
not get unless you are in person with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I realized. So then it was like, okay, I need to, and I've become as obsessed with creating these experiences where women
Mm-hmm.
can come together, share in energy. It's super casual. I've just been doing these, what I'm calling community networking events. We're out in
Mm-hmm.
the community, we're going to different areas, different places, involving different activities to take some of the pressure off. Because I think that's another thing as someone who felt like an introvert and networking itself felt intimidating. It was like, okay, well, what can we do to change that for some of the other people that might also feel that? But once
Mm-hmm.
women get into a group and the
Yeah.
energy and everything, it's just incredible to
Mm-hmm.
see how
Yeah.
all these other things start to layers, peel
Yeah.
off. And really, we
Mhm.
get back to that place of we are not meant to do this. And it's
Mhm.
clear because when I see that energy in the room of people
Mhm.
that kind of come in and they're like, I don't know how this is going to go. I'm going to keep to
Yeah.
myself a little bit. And then you can just see them
Mhm.
relax and just flow.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I don't know how anyone can say magic isn't real after sitting in a room like that because it is magic. Like I've experienced the same thing. It's like everyone kind of comes in and we all revert back to like middle school girls that are like, "Oh my God, no one's gonna like me. What am I gonna wear? I'm just gonna sit here in the corner. Like
Yeah.
I'm so weird. Oh my gosh." And then within 2 hours or 2 days, now everyone is weeping because they're leaving each
Right.
other. And that's why it's so important to be in these co-created situations because everyone is mutually there for the same reasons. And so there's a saying that people can only meet you to the depths that they met themselves. And so when you're
Yes.
in a situation where everyone has said, yes, I want to be a part of this, that's where you can go so deep, so fast. And like these silly little walls that we put up just come crashing down and we just hold each other. And it's so beautiful.
Oh, it is. It really is. And having the honor of being in these spaces with these women
Hmm.
too is incredible. So, talking about community and letting go of some external expectations. So,
Mm.
pursuing your dreams in a small town or
Yeah.
in where you feel like your community is really small. I think that's also
Yeah.
very important is like I had said in my own experience while I'm in a larger community, I have felt like I'm in a
Hmm.
small town.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk a little bit about pursuing dreams and when we feel like we're in a small community.
Yeah, and I think the ideas that I have learned around this, around small town, are actually incredibly transferable to everyone. In a small town, I think we double down on the idea that everybody knows everyone and like we're all under a microscope. But that is
Mhm.
those feelings are equally true no matter where you are, right? We play these mind games of what are they going to think? I'm so weird. Like people are going to judge me. Everyone's going to be talking shit about me. Like nobody, blah, 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 blah. And whether or not those things happen, like so much of it is created in our own mind. And so it's kind of a multiple layer piece to doing this. Part of it is like really coming home to yourself and being like, this is so important to me. I'm going to do it, even if the worst case scenario were to happen. And the reality is, half the times when the worst case scenario thing happens, you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad. And so it's like this
Right?
kind of con list of, like, okay, what happens if I do it and all of these horrible things that I'm imagining come true? But also, like, what if my wildest dreams come true? And so
Yeah.
the reality is, yeah, there will be people who don't understand. That's true. But you and I have talked at nauseum about find people who do. Find people who normalize your dreams. And whether that's building a business, whether that's changing the way you parent, whether that's taking care of your health differently, whether that's exploring a path of spirituality, like whatever that looks like to you, it
Yeah.
is true that the people around you may or may not understand, whether they're your random neighbors or your mother-in-law or your sister or your best friend, right? There's this crab analogy where if a crab crawls out of a bucket, all the other ones will pull it down. And like human nature, I can't remember the name of this, the idea, but it's the same way. Like it is more comfortable for the people who have always known you for you to say the same as you always have been,
Yes.
because that
Hmm.
is the version of you that they know and feels safe in their perception of the world, right? But it is also true that there are people eager and ready and willing to meet you in the new places you're going to evolve to. And so it's like a choose your hard thing, right? Like it is really hard to stay stagnant in a situation, place, mindset, idea, belief system, habit track that is no longer serving you. It is also really hard to take the steps outside of that into discomfort. But what's amazing, if I even just think back to when I started sharing online, when I, left my job with no business plan and people didn't understand, when I started my podcast, all of those were really big benchmarks of like, what are people in my small town going to think?
Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But what's amazing is the number of people in my local community who are like, I am constantly in awe of what you do. I have seen you do XYZ, and it's inspired me to believe that X, Y, and Z is possible for me. I watched you do this, and so now I'm doing this. Oh my gosh, I listened to your podcast episode. Oh, first of all, there's like nothing more cringy than when someone in the school picnic line is like, I was listening to your recent podcast episode, and you're like, oh my God, what did I say? Right? Like, I want people to listen, but not you.
I had
But
that experience with the last podcast, not so much this one, but the last one I did with my friends. Sorry, not to go totally off topic, but yes, I agree.
yeah,
Wait, which
you
one
heard
did you
that.
listen to?
What did I
Like,
say?
yeah, what did I say?
But then they say like, oh, this part really resonated with me, or I sent it to my cousin or whatever. And so I think we like play these mind games to keep ourselves safe, right? Because at the end of the day, our brains and our nervous systems like think that we're fighting buffaloes all day long and like don't want us to go off into the wild untethered. But the reality is when we do the scary things, you actually have no idea who's watching and who's being inspired. And if there are people who don't understand, who are talking shit or who blah, 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 whatever, like that says more about them and their insecurities and their inability to go after their own dreams or their ability to pursue their own authenticity. Right? Many people talk,
100%.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Small-minded people talk about people, and people who are growth-oriented are talking about ideas or, other things. And this doesn't mean say those are bad. Again, it goes back to the like knowing who you can talk to about different things, and that's okay. But part of it is, to summarize it, is creating the safety within yourself. It is weighing the pro cons of, what's it going to be like if I stay here? How am I going to feel 1 year today if I'm still spiraling out in the same place? And I can tell you from experience, it feels terrible. But also, what's the best thing that could happen? And I am going to be okay, even if everything crumbles down around me. And newsflash, it's probably not going to crumble down around you because you're going to find the other people who are on the journey you are and who are going to raise you up even higher. Right. And ultimately, we also get so obsessed with choosing the right path. What's the next
Mm-hmm.
right step? And I'm so paralyzed by doing it wrong or being a failure or people seeing that I failed. Everything is just a step down the path you're meant to go on. And so it is actually a total waste of time to sit here and try to analyze what is the best right step. Like just take a step because that's
Yeah.
going to lead you to the next thing. That's going to lead you to the next thing. That's going to like randomly open the podcast that's going to connect you to that person that's you're going to end up at a retreat and then meet this person and then all of a sudden you're doing this and that like it all unfolds when you build momentum by doing something.
For sure. And your mindset through each of those things, what I have come to realize is that's what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, being in that space of not being able to cheer somebody else on
Mm-hmm.
is really bringing yourself down because you're
Yeah.
actually cutting yourself off
Mm-hmm.
from the energy that can
Mm-hmm.
help you have that mindset to be able to do all these things that you want to do for yourself too, right? When you're
Yeah.
showing up at different things and you're just kind of looking at everybody like, oh, well, that person's where I wanted to be 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
well, look, when you show up to spaces like that, you're cutting off your energy of even attracting the
Mm-hmm.
people that need to be in your community, that you
Mm-hmm.
need to be in community with to help you get to where you actually want to be.
Right.
And that's also been one of a big lesson for me as well is holding space for people to come into community that you actually need to be in your community to help
Yeah.
you and to guide you and to possibly be a mentor or
Mm-hmm.
all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things when you were talking about the crab in the bucket scenario, I was just listening to an audiobook, and one of the things it was talking about was this too close bias the way that he was talking about it is like, you if you're going to open a restaurant, right? Like some family restaurant, and basically yeah, your family's going to go, right? To support you. But
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to go every single night. You can't
Mm-hmm.
rely on your family eating at your restaurant every single night to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to do something, you also have to start connecting with your community at
Yeah.
large to
Mm-hmm.
help bring, right? So then it just made me think about things really differently. I mean, I did understand the too close bias before because I come from a family that is just, yeah, more on the pessimistic, negative. Like, my father worked at the same company since he was like 18 and just
Mm-hmm.
never saw anything more for himself than what he did from 18 to retirement.
Yeah.
So if we are always around people like that and telling our hopes and dreams to people like that, they don't have the
Yes.
ability to see your vision with you.
Yeah. Well, and I
So,
think that's a fallacy that a lot of us get trapped in one way or another, whether it's related to career or something else. It's like we spend so much time trying to justify our choices and make someone who is literally incapable of understanding understand and validate while we're doing the things you're doing. And it's don't waste your breath. And I'm not saying like cut them out, never talk to them, but like don't look for maybe your spouse or your parents or your bestie who literally can't and don't want to get it to be like, you know what, that's the best idea ever. You can say, hey, here's what I'm going to do. Here's why it's important to me. Here's what I'm really excited about. All I'm asking is that you support me. Like, you don't have to get it. That's okay. But it's important to me. And so, can you just like trust me and come along for the journey? That's such a different question. But
mhm.
we like are obsessed with the people in our life validating the choices that we're making. And some of them just aren't gonna get it. But then this goes back to inserting yourself into the conversations where people are. And maybe it's listening to a podcast, right? If you're listening to something like this, you're already doing that.
Yeah.
Like some of your greatest mentors don't even have to know you exist, right? But when the time is right, get yourself into conversations where other people are saying, yes, me too. That's such a good idea. I love that. Have you thought about this? What if we did this together? What if you did that? Like, that's where this, you're like, oh, like it's a sigh of
Mhm.
relief and also this huge spark of energy to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Like at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want to belong. We want to
Mhm.
belong for who we authentically are, in the way that we are, in who we've been and who we're growing into. And so, like, it's okay to tap into new circles to find that moment of you see me, you get me, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's part of the ripple effect, right?
Mhm.
Of personal transformation. And I think that is something that is really huge because as soon as I also started choosing to heal and look at my life from what I kind of call being on a path of my true north, right? If you're looking at a
Mhm.
compass, like there is a north, but there's also true north, and it's not always
Mhm.
going to be in line with north.
Right.
You just have to follow your true north. And
Yeah.
once you make and take all the different steps,
Mhm.
and again, you're going to fumble, you're going to have hurdles, you're going to have obstacles, you're going to have people that you meet and come up against that might rock your world in some way or another.
Mhm.
But when you are constantly following your own path, people around you will see that and feel that. And that's a
Mm.
ripple effect, whether it's your,
Yes.
everyone that's under your own roof, or whether that is your local neighborhood, or the
Mhm.
ripple effect can branch out into all sorts of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, you know, speaking for myself and a lot of the women I work with, we like set out to change the world. Like I became a teacher because I wanted to make an impact, right? And that was good and fine and well. But what I have actually found is we change the world by healing. and changing ourselves and really intentionally pouring into our lives and our mindsets and our trajectories and living, like you said, in authenticity and alignment. And that is a ripple effect that cannot be contained. It changes the way we parent, it changes the way we're in relationships, it changes the way we lead in our communities, it changes the way we show up online. And that empowers another person to do the same and another person to do the same and another person to do the same. Like that is genuinely how we transform the world from the inside out. Last month, I told you I've been traveling a lot more than usual, but I had the opportunity to go co-facilitate a retreat for alongside a woman who had come to one of mine. And she was putting it on for the women who work in her salon. And some of them were as young as 21, 22. And so, I remember where she was a couple of years ago when she came to my retreat. She's done some virtual programs with me, and then getting to give these girls the same experience who are from a very small town, rural community in South Carolina, North Carolina, over there. And like we said, that magic of sitting and bringing these walls down, and like they are talking about some really hard things that they've been through. And no one has ever looked at them and said, it's not your fault.
Mm.
You don't have to be so strong for anyone anymore. You're
Mm-hmm.
safe.
Yeah.
Like you can choose a different path than your parents who were addicts or, these people in your life who told you you'd never amount to anything. I mean, just heartbreak, but they've never had a space like this to communally share and be held and be safe and trusted. And
Mm-hmm.
now they're going back to their salon and their everyday life together to continue those relationships forward. And it was like, holy cannoli. Like if I go back a few years to when my journey began and the number of times I said yes, even though it was hard and even though it was scary. And then that brought Caitlin into my circle. And then that was like a spark that ignited so much transformation in her life from the inside out. And then now she is doing this for these girls. Though I have no doubt in my mind that those women are forever changed from that weekend in big ways and in small ways, right? But that gave them this like spark. And to get that when you're 22, like that's literally life changing. And it was the first, like, I know that the work that I do, like, I can see it, when I talking to women that I've been working with for years and their like whole realities are just different. But to have that tangible of a like, wow, I said yes. And I'm good at what I do, but I'm not special. I'm not born different. I'm not made like I live in a town with 43 people and I decided to start an Instagram account. Right? Like I think a lot of times we look at someone's like 0.75 and we're like, oh, I'll never get there. Like I started my account at ground zero because I didn't want anyone in my town to know it existed. And this is not even the end, but like this is where the ripple effect is at today. Like you never
Yes.
freaking know what's going to happen, how you're going to transform, who's going to be changed, and how that will literally impact people you will never see.
It's true. It's 100% true. I years ago on a vision board, I love vision boards. Um,
Yes.
I cut out the words and put it on, and it was significant impact. And at the
Mhm.
time that I put those words on there, what I thought and had the vision of was a community of women and basically being like a host, someone who
Mhm.
facilitated and all that kind of stuff. And that was going to be my significant impact. And then I had this realization after somebody in our local community passed away. It was a fellow who had been in the community. I remember as a kid always seeing him walking around. And over the years, that's from the time I was a kid to an adult, I would see him randomly around town in different spots in different ways. And then he passed away. And I couldn't get over the amount of realization of the impact that he actually had,
Mhm.
even though I met him when I was a kid
Right.
once at a random like field party. But anyways, That's the only interaction I ever had with that man. And yet he had some form of impact in my life
Mhm.
enough for me to have this realization. So then I started understanding that those words on my vision board was not just for building some community, it was
Yeah.
just showing up every
Mhm.
single day as the best version of me that I could be.
Mhm.
And that was going to be the ripple effect that happened outside. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and now I look back on those words and I see it differently. And I see,
Mhm.
because again, checking our reactive goal setting
Mhm.
versus so looking back, I realized that putting that on there was more of a reactive goal setting.
Mhm.
However, the manifestation of what it has become is
Yeah.
really truly what has landed to the heart.
Mhm.
That, how it's become, was my true north.
Yeah. And when you start living life on purpose for you, it drastically changes the way that your kids experience the world. Like the mindsets that they adopt, what they believe is possible, like the way that they know, love, and trust themselves. Like when you are in alignment, like without even trying, it totally transforms your kids' experience. And so I have a lot of hope for, the generation that we're raising right now because and maybe I'm jaded because I have just created this situation where so many people in my life are growth oriented, but to think like the intentionality that so many parents I know are bringing to the conversation and like the healing work that's being done and like the recognition of generational patterns and how do we rewrite the story? Like it's going to be really cool to watch these kids grow up.
It really is. It really is. We're kind of hitting that 1 hour mark here. And I feel like we've really talked in great depth about a lot of different things. Is there any other points that you want to bring up?
Mm. We talked about so many of my favorite things.
One of the things that I did, I will actually quickly bring up is you said self-employment is as much about trusting yourself and your journey as it is
Mm,
about the work itself.
mhm.
That really does, I think,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship and self-employment, trusting yourself has been one of the biggest lessons
Mhm.
that I have had to learn in order to get to where I've am
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is the most forceful form of personal growth because all of these little habits and nuances that we develop in other people's workplaces or in school, like they are irrelevant when it's you versus the world, right? And so, just looking at my own journey, that's what pushed me into really dealing with why I had gotten to a place of burnout so many times. Like, where was this approval addiction coming from and how do I heal it? I fully believe that anything is possible and you and I can achieve our wildest dreams, but I no longer will do it at the expense of my mental health and my relationships, right? Like, how do I build an aligned life and show other women how to do the same? Because at the end of the day, like, if I have this really big financially successful like thing, but I'm miserable again. Like, what was it all for? Like, I want as many women as possible to experience lives that they love. And sometimes that's through entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship is also not for everyone. Please hear me there. But I think it comes down to this layer of intentionality and breaking out of the mold of this is the checklist of the 10 things that are going to make me happy and forever and ever, amen, right? So what does it look like to build a life of purpose, of intentionality? And entrepreneurship really is a fast track to bring you through that journey in real time because it's very hard to show up in your business when you are unhealthy. It all catches up in health, in mental health somewhere. And so the interesting thing about building the type of business like you and I have of being a personal brand and extension of who we are and our experiences in the world is that is ever evolving and changing. And that's my favorite part. I hope that 5 years from now, my business looks totally different because I have evolved.
Mm, and I think that's another thing is like to it's okay to do something different. It's okay
Mhm.
to have this idea of how it's going to look from 5 years in 5 years today, but the understanding that we are going to evolve, we are going to shift,
Mhm.
we are going to change. Our values generally do stay the same, but our priorities might change along the way
Mhm.
of what order those values come in and everything.
Yeah.
So that all adds to
Mhm.
what 5 years from now looks like.
Right. Right. It's all a season, right? Really, a journey that I've been on this year is understanding myself and really humanity as a whole in relationship to the natural world in which we were created to exist in. And it's if you look to nature, everything goes in cycles. There are seasons of winter when everything's a little bit more dormant and it's quieter and it's darker. And then there's seasons of spring and new life. And then there's summer when everything's in full bloom and high energy. And then there's fall, which is a transition. And like our businesses are the same, our lives are the same. As women, like we are literally on a cycle. And the more that I have come to understand that within myself, I'm like, well, no wonder we're all walking around feeling crazy. I don't know about
Mm-hmm.
you. I don't even know what the phases of my cycle were until very recently in the grand scheme of life. Like, how did I grow up as a woman in this world and not know what ovulation was until after my second daughter was born? That's
Mm,
embarrassing. But like, we don't teach girls that, or at least they did in the 90s, right? And so
yeah.
it's like, no wonder we're beating our heads against the wall because we are trying to be robotic machines with the same level of output, energy, idea generation. No, take a nap. Not supposed to be summering all the time. So that's just been something that's been really on my mind is wow, we collectively have become so disconnected for who we were designed to be. And going back to that whole human design conversation, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Whether it's
Yeah.
in life or business or career relationships, it's like who were you before the world told you to be otherwise? And that could start as
Mm,
little as infancy, right?
mm-hmm.
As babies and toddlers. So often we're like, don't do this. No, you're fine. You're not sad. Just be happy. Do this. Like, we have been so disconnected from our emotional regulation, from our nervous
Mm-hmm.
systems, from the way we were designed to exist in the world that it's hard. And coming home to that is a very intentional process.
It really is. And it's something that it's going to be a work in progress
Hmm.
along the way. And I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, as far as phases, cycles, all those things, it's not something that is talked about a lot.
Mm-mm.
And although I too just recently have been like, okay, maybe that is something that I should start to pay a little more attention to. It's hard because there's such a pattern of go, 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 no
Yeah.
matter what you feel like. And
Hmm.
taking naps or, all these different things will not get you to where you want to be. Like sleeping is
Yes.
when you're 6 feet under or whatever, right?
Right. I'll sleep when I'm dead. Yeah.
Right? Like all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
gosh, and especially as a projector, you need rest in order to do your best work, which is so countercultural.
And that's another thing that I realized years ago was taking rest and not looking it as so I used to think like after doing an event or after something, being around a lot of people, I felt an energy depletion.
Yes.
I wouldn't say it felt super negative. It just was a noticeable depletion of my energy, but I didn't know what to do with that
Yep.
information. I didn't know what to do with that feeling. And I started, unfortunately, creating the story in my head that it's because I'm an introvert and I really am not meant to be
Mm,
around a lot of people.
yeah.
So then I started
Isolating.
isolating.
Hmm.
And then I don't even know where I got it or where could have been a podcast, could have been an audiobook. I don't know, but somebody somewhere made me understand and realize it's not that. It's just that I need to build rest in.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to go and be out and amongst people, that's okay. But what I
Mm-hmm.
also need to do is take care of that need to
Yeah.
recharge.
Yeah.
And if I can start doing that, guess what? I'm going to start trusting myself to take
Mm-hmm.
care of myself, to
Yeah.
feel safe when I go to these events, but also feel safe when I'm at home
Right.
to do
Yep.
those things, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like this cycle and pattern within inside of me that I really had to tap into. And once I started doing that, then oh, I can go to all these different events. I can do all these different things
Mm-hmm.
and know that I'm going to be taken care of because I
Yeah.
I now understand what I need.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, if anyone's listening and you don't know what we're talking about, just Google free human design chart. My favorite is my friend Leah is the design of you, but there's a tons of different websites and just get your chart, get your analytics. Honestly, here's the life hack. Copy and paste it into Chat GPT and ask it to give you an analyzed summary of your chart.
Ooh, yes. Love
Mhm.
that.
I did that for me and my husband and all of my kids. And then I had to analyze our relationships together and potential points of tension and strengths and areas of growth. And I understand AI can be flawed. Like we all know that. It's like a
Yeah.
robot. But it was devastatingly spot on. It was amazing. Like we're living in the future, guys. Technology's here. Use it or don't. But it was so cool.
It is here, and I will admit I was not very happy at first about AI and thinking all these different things about it, but I have jumped in with
You
both
got.
feet. I am all about it. As someone who also is very creative a lot of the times, I
Mm-hmm.
think what my worry was that I was
Mm-hmm.
putting too much into
Mm-hmm.
AI and allowing it to take the creativity instead of being
Yeah.
creative myself. And what I've now that I've been using it a bit more, now what I understand is that where my creative energy needs to be is
Mm,
not what AI does for me, right? Like
correct.
I can totally see the difference and the distinction between what my creative energy is
Mm-hmm.
and what I can utilize AI to
Yeah.
help me to bridge a gap. Like sometimes I
Yes.
totally can't think of the words. Like I get
Yeah.
caught up on English language and how to prepare things and all these different things. Guess what? All I need to do is put information into what my creative space does and then
Mm-hmm.
allow AI to outline it for me. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, done. Good. Now I
Right.
don't have this barrier
Mm-hmm. Yes.
of my own mind getting in my
Yes.
way.
Well, and especially as entrepreneurs, like the way it can fast track the things that, like you said, are not necessary, do not demand my creativity, but do demand a lot of my brain power and time for very little return, right? It's if I can just give you a podcast transcript and you can give me some ideas for titles, I can take your suggestions and like make my own. But I'm not sitting here for an hour being like, oh, what should I call this podcast episode title? Like it takes an hour process and makes it like an 8-minute process. And that is great. I have no shame.
No shame here either. Literally, when I started this podcast, again, like I said, the technology and everything. So before I was using GarageBand, literally
Mm.
going in to the sound only, no words on my screen, sitting here listening over and
Oh
over
my
and over
gosh.
again, taking chunks here, managing this gap in this or that or whatever, and then doing everything from scratch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I couldn't keep up. I really couldn't. And I then ended up with a block of energy.
It's too
Now I'm
much.
now I'm not creative at all in other areas of what I want to
Mhm.
do because I'm
Right.
so stuck on if I don't get that
Logistics.
yeah, if I
Yeah.
don't get that episode out and I don't keep my momentum going, then oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
now I'm in failure because I haven't done what I said I was going to do,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? And it's like this whole big barrier. And then I found this program and I love it. And it just, yeah, boom, right? Like,
Hmm.
I love it. It's
I'm here
good.
for it.
And that's all I want to do is just spread that word that we don't have to allow these barriers that, and it doesn't mean that maybe in a year from now, I'll be quick and able to do things differently. But right
Mm.
now, I need to use all of the AI aspects in order to keep going.
Yeah. Well, and I think that really brings up a conversation, especially as moms and especially as entrepreneurs, of releasing the expectation that we have to do it all. Like the greatest gift I have given myself is letting go of the if I don't do everything right now, I'm an absolute failure. I'm a bad mom and a bad wife and I'm a bad business owner and blah, 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 blah. No wonder we're so stressed out and overwhelmed. Do I love my house to be totally picked up? Yes. But if I make that my standard, of perfection of whether or not I'm a good mom and a good wife every day, I will always feel like I'm not enough. Like I have to bless and release some of that, right?
Yeah.
We use
Hmm.
childcare. We ask grandmas for help. We like there are so many, we hired a house cleaner, like things that when I did it the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, ugh. But now I'm like, yes, please clean my toilets. I don't feel like it. I have other things that I want to do. And especially as business owners that make me money. Like I don't need to be doing that. And I think in business, like that has been such a powerful lesson of just because you can do it doesn't mean that you have to do it. I don't want to build a website. I don't want to edit my podcast. I don't want to. There are
Hmm.
people who that is their thing and they love it. And you know what? Me hiring them puts money in their pocket so that they can live their purpose. Like we're just building our own little economy of people doing really cool things that they love. I think this is like getting into such a philosophical conversation. And I would love to know if someone has formally researched this. But if you think about prior to the industrial era, everyone had highly specialized businesses essentially that they were running, right? There was the shoemakers and, the farmers, and everyone kind of did their own little thing to feed the ecosystem of the community that they existed in. And then we got to like factories and blah, blah, blah. And now it's like we're doing the same thing, but online. Like this person's podcasting and this person's editing, and then this person's like creating content and this person is building the website, and it's like we're all like doing these highly specialized things and hiring each other to do the things that we want to do in the world that we exist in. I think it's so cool.
I agree. I think it's absolutely cool. And I think what a way to reframe it too, like how you said, you're in your zone of genius doing what
Hmm.
you're doing, and you're hiring people that are in their zone of genius. That's
Yes.
they wouldn't be a cleaner if they didn't want to be a cleaner. You're
Right.
not hiring them to do something that they don't want to do.
Right.
You're
Right.
hiring them because you want to put your energy into your zone of
Yes.
genius, right? And I think that's
Exactly.
such a good way to look at it. And also, there's another way of having community,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And build and having a community. It's not just community of, and how you put it before, like-minded and being stuck with this one thing. This is another aspect of community,
Hmm.
right? You're
Very much so.
supporting your local community, entrepreneurs, the business, the ecosystem, economics within and everything. Hey, like
If you get
uh,
one thing from this conversation, everybody go hire a house cleaner. It'll change your life.
oh, that's a whole other topic of conversation. But yeah, hire out. Yes, I think it's important, right? If you can, do it.
Well, and that's the best part of being an entrepreneur is like when you are in charge of your financial reality, it's like, what's this? I want it. I got it. Like, that's how I feel as an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh, there's this thing that I want to do. There's this experience that I want to go to. There's this room that I want to renovate. There's this thing that I want to have. Great. How am I going to earn the money to do that? And it's like such a different mindset to be like, I can literally have whatever I want. It's just a problem to solve. And the speed at which I get it is just in relationship to like how aligned my offer is and how willing I am to make it happen. It's so different than existing in the 9 to 5 world. And I'm not saying that there isn't a time and a place for the 9 to 5 world. Please don't hear me that if someone's like, no, but I love my job. Great.
But then,
Talking
but
about entrepreneurship, like it's so freaking cool to be able to make that decision.
well, exactly. And if you are into your 9 to 5 and you love it, then you likely have found your zone of genius and
Mm-hmm.
you work within that. What I used to
Yes.
do before, I'm a legal assistant, and my job I absolutely loved. I loved it,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't 9 to 5 most of the time. It took me away from my kids way too much, like hours on end working, super, super stressful and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Long story short, I left it for like 4 years and kind of was like, ooh, I really loved what I did. There was something about it, and it was
Mm-hmm.
connection, community, like a few
Mm-hmm.
things that are always going to be part
Yep.
of who I am. And I was able to now problem solve how to do it, but on my terms.
Yeah.
And that going back to being an entrepreneur, right? Like we get to choose
Mm-hmm.
things and have these things in our lives on our terms and whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Like the definition of success, I feel like is to each individual person. And for me, right now, living this life on purpose, the way I'm doing it is successful to me,
Yes.
right? Like, but I used to have a different way of looking at it. I
Mm-hmm.
used to think in the business world, working a 9 to 5, successful for me as a professional looked one way. And when I
Mm-hmm.
would look at people who did own their own business, success for them looked something
Yeah.
different. You know what I mean? Like I had it all categorized. Success
Mm-hmm.
for an entrepreneur looked like this. Success for a professional working in an office looked like this.
Yeah.
Totally different perception now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I feel like we could talk for 3 hours.
Yeah, I do too. I know. There's so many different things, and I feel like we did talk about a lot, and there's still so many other things that I feel like we could have touched on as
We'll
well.
come
But
back for part 2.
yay, Emily, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I
Thank
really have
you.
enjoyed this time with you, what you're doing for women and your retreats and your workshops and everything. It's amazing. Thank you so much for bringing this energy today to this conversation.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Anchor Your Dreams. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. A big thank you to our incredible guest for sharing their wisdom and insights. If you resonated with today's episode and want to explore more about turning your dreams into reality, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We have a lineup of amazing guests and valuable content coming your way. Don't forget to connect with us on social media. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Share your thoughts, insights, and your own journey using the hashtag #AnchorYourDreams. Head over to our website at meganmcquillan.com in the podcast section, where you'll find the show notes, resources, and information about upcoming episodes. Before we wrap up, I want to express my gratitude to each and every one of you. Your support means the world to me, and I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you. Remember, anchored dreams become goals, anchored goals become results. Until next time, dream big and stay anchored.